I really had to take a minute to think about this question because it really makes you think deep as to how persons infected and affected as friends and family members impact your life. And in the 30 years of this pandemic, we have lost quite a few of persons. And even the persons I didn't expect to get, infected, they did. And many of us got affected by that. HIV also forced communities, governments to start speaking about the persons most at risk. And in my life, it opened a major gray area of being able to talk about the LGBT community in the Caribbean context. Governments and religious leaders were not ready, but basically they did not have a choice. They were forced to. It came to the point where they needed to speak languages such as MSMs and LGBT and homosexuality, knowing that they were at the high ranking of this whole epidemic in terms of transmission, in terms of risk triggers. And it forced the communities at large to start recognizing and start conversing, even about sex workers. Prostitution, most people call it. Looking back in the years and knowing that this has been one of the oldest professions around, but it has also been one of the oldest stigmatized professions. And at this point, it really forced it to have that conversation. Persons who wanted to hide under the shadows of thinking, we don't have a problem with drug use. Again, bringing it back to the ground that they didn't have a choice but to recognize, hey, do something positive. You got to be able to reach out to those people that you eliminate and think that they were not part of society. At this point, HIV has brought in those gaps that made those conversations happen that would not have happened in general. Talking about HIV in our prisons and the things that happen there. And whereas there's almost like a rule of a code of silence, it broke it because it says that, hey, whether we like it or not, we got to speak about what's happening in the prisons, legal or illegal. They got to speak about it. And so these are the areas that I could look at that it really forced this kind of open conversations. But in the Caribbean, where St. Lucia particularly, where I look at sexuality conversations are like taboo. It's not something you talk about, it's just something you do. Persons know that it is happening, but yet, there's like this underlining that says, don't ask, don't tell. And it's the kind of behavior that they treat most people with, whether it's MSM, whether it is sex work, whether it's drug users. It's like, whatever you do, just don't speak about it. Do your do, but don't speak about it. But right now, it has brought this it has started the conversation, because sexuality and sex is still taboo in the Caribbean. And I think until we actually go all through it and look at, hey, in order to combat AIDS, in order to combat HIV, in order to combat STIs, we have to look at how it has affected us and the things that we are still not doing and the conversations that we need to have. We need to be able to move from the point where it is just about education and information to making sure that there's an ownership by all of the communities and people that are alive. We need to make sure that it's a life skill, that they understand, when we talk about this disease or this virus, we need to look at it like the water we drink or the air that we breathe that is on a daily basis. Because you know what? As long as you're a human being, and as long as you're walking around, and as long as you are involved in sexual activities, you are at risk. And this is what I see for the 30 years. And through my 30 years of being alive, we have just started.